Hi, my name's Tamsin and I'm delighted to be talking to you today about courage. Courage is an interesting concept. I think we all kind of have grown up with different ideas of it depending on our families. For me, I grew up with an idea of courage that was about a hero. It was about Nelson Mandela in South Africa, Martin Luther King, Gandhi. My dad was a real social justice advocate. And I grew up with this idea of what it was to be courageous in the good way, for society. So perhaps it's no surprise I went into politics and was really interested in setting big targets, working on renewable energy, really having this kind of influence. But the more I felt like I knew the answer as to what should happen, what this big response that we should be making to this critical goal, I started to understand that maybe I don't have the answer. And maybe the deeper and more conscious courage was admitting that that was the case. And not thinking about myself as a lone hero, but thinking about myself as one piece of an intelligent system, which within it lies the answer. When I started working with women on boards and boardrooms across Africa, I quickly realized that the key question to ask people coming in was, is it okay for you to not have the answer? Because it's withholding the question that you can get the maximum intelligence out of a room, out of an organization. I think that for me, they're the kind of boardrooms I want to sit in. They're the spaces I want to be in, where we can say, what is the creativity we can bring to this challenge? When you think about what's happening in the world, in whichever sector you're in, whichever country, we all know we need new solutions. When we start drilling into what does it feel like to be in that space, I want to give an example of a dialogue I was involved with recently, where we were talking about big questions around climate change and whether digital solutions could be found to tackle different issues. A group of experts was drawn together from around the world, people in blockchain, you name it, all of these different highly technical areas came together, finance, nutrition, agriculture. There were about 20 of us doing this deep dive. And we started the session with this question, which is, what are the main things that have happened within the climate movement in the last 100 years that have had a huge impact? When I was asked that question, my heart started to race. I started to feel my ability to be creative sort of dampening. And that's actually a physical reaction. When you have a sense of expectation or nerves or I need to do something and you're going to be seen, in that old version of courage, you actually start to dampen your ability for your brain to fully function and you go into this kind of fight or flight. So I quickly wrote down some things, put them up, hoped they were going to be sufficient to add real value to the meeting. But I didn't share anything new. I didn't open up my creative capacities. The next question we were asked was, in the next 100 years, what are going to be these big areas of influence that we're going to see? And none of us knew. And at that moment, it's like my body changed completely. My hormones flooded with positive hormones. We're in a kind of a group flow where everyone's idea was interesting. We're trying to make connections. The intelligence expanded from my intelligence, the intelligence of the entire room. And with that, we get access to, as I say, different parts of our brain through our body's reaction to operating on something as a collective, as a group, as an interactive. But the courage to ask a question or to say, I don't know, is quite real. We're kind of glad in a way in this period we have some leaders that are okay at doing that. The Prime Minister of New Zealand, Jacinda Ardern, is one that I really have enjoyed watching during COVID, bringing people together, saying it's all of us, not just me. And I think countries that are increasingly doing that are doing very well, as are organizations that are doing that. And I would argue, as are the people that are willing to hold that. Because when we know we don't have the answers and can listen, we're not just able to come up with better solutions, but we're also able to be much more peaceful in our physical body perhaps there isn't a need to demand of ourselves the answer. Perhaps what we're really wanting to do is to ask ourselves, how do we bring the largest level of intelligence to bear through our courage? So maybe today, instead of thinking about how you can step up to courage, you might like to think about how you can step back into your body, into your full faculties of the intelligence of your sensations and your senses, and think, what is it today that I'm being called to not know the answer to, and how can I bring a different kind of courage to my life?